Kia ora whānau. Welcome to Big Hairy News. Kia ora Chewy.
Good evening, Pat.
Yes.
Pretty down buzz start to the show.
It's a pretty down buzz start to the world today. Obviously, we are, of course, speaking of the incredibly sad passing of Efeso Collins, and that is going to be the topic of conversation for tonight. I do have a couple of other stories to talk about, but to be honest with you, if we end up just talking about Efeso and about what happened, and if you guys want to talk about it, I've just opened up Discord and put the link in the chat. That just might be the whole show. It's a really, really, really sad day, and I was just thinking about it. I was thinking, would I be this sad and this bummed out if it was just some random MP that we didn't have a connection to? And I think it's always going to be sad, but I feel like we did have a connection to Efeso. When he came on the podcast a couple of times, I think one of the clips I enjoyed most of all was how did that fucking mouth breather win the mayoralty in Auckland that he spoke to. And, you know, young family, wife, community, and I mean, like, not that it needs to get much worse than that, and that it all happened very publicly at a charity event. I did a little live stream today when it happened. I was probably up half an hour after the announcement that he had passed, and I was kind of going, why have they released this so quickly? This is not normally how it happens, but when we play you the TVNZ One News, if you haven't seen it before, you'll understand why they released it so quickly, because it was flooded with media, and there was hundreds of people saw what happened. I just had the thought, Chewy, I'm not sure how old his daughters actually are, but I just had the thought, you know, were his kids at school? Did they manage to get to his kids before a teacher had a notification pop up on, you know, that's how I found out they had clapped, pop a notification on my phone. It just all happened so quickly, and yeah, horrible day. And no matter how kind of bad we feel and sad we feel, it dwarfs in comparison to how his friends and especially family, wife and kids will be feeling right now. Just an awful day. I don't think about death a lot, but it's one of those things where you kind of go, actually, I was about to click on a link that said patreon.com. I'm not going to do that tonight. I'm not interested in kind of going, hey, you could support that's not for tonight, right? So I'm just not even going to touch it. In fact, what I'll do is I'll just put up the contact one. If people want to email us anything, you can. So in saying that, sorry, if you're someone who's joined the Patreon in the last 24 hours, and there have been a few people, we will give you the credit that you deserve on Monday, because tomorrow's a pre-recorded show. I just don't really feel like going zig-zag zong. Let's say thanks for all those people supporting us, and we're not going to do that. In fact, we do have somewhere that you can put your money tonight if you want to, but we'll talk about that shortly. The thing always comes to me, I've talked about this before in various things, is there's these lightning moments in our life, like lightning as in lightning strikes, and sometimes they're great. You know, someone wins lotto, it's a lightning strike, you know, for whatever reason in that moment, in that thing, it happens. And then there's bad ones, you know, that people walk out to work in the morning and then they don't walk home again from work because they die unexpectedly during the day. So just a horrible, awful, revolting day. And I know that we're pretty lighthearted here, and whilst we are truthful and accurate, we do it with a smile on our face. I mean, I don't really feel much like smiling tonight. I kind of feel like giving this beautiful man and a beautiful friend, as many online are saying, a bit of a, I don't want to say send off. That sounds too grandiose. You know, some recognition for a very sad day in New Zealand and in New Zealand politics. Chewy, you got anything you want to start off with?
I think something like this, when it's a public figure. I mean, you said yourself, would we have the same reaction if it was someone that didn't have a connection to the show, or whose politics, say, didn't align, and morals didn't align with us as much as his very clearly did? I think the shock factor would still be there.
Yeah.
Like,
especially if they were 49. It doesn't matter who it was. Yeah. If they were 49 with 2 young children and a partner, it's like shit. It's bad.
And I think that's a very human reaction. And I think, you know, when I saw it, I jumped on my social medias and some that I don't use anymore just to get a vibe. And one of the comments that popped up, one of the commentators that popped up really surprised me. It's someone that I do not have a very high opinion of.
Right.
And it was Leo Malloy's comments on Twitter,
Right.
which were probably the most genuine and human-like I'd seen out of him. And it was just recognition of the fact that he was someone that worked very, very hard for his communities and was a decent human being that just so happened he didn't agree with politically.
Yeah.
But that was it. And I wouldn't have expected a comment from someone that is so abrasive.
Yeah.
And I think when you see people's reaction from across the political sphere, all react in the same way. You know, he's had a long association with Labour, so it made sense for Labour to drop some very kind comments in there, and it very obviously affected members of the Labour cabinet who have close dealings with him. You know, it would have been absolutely gutting for his Green colleagues, but I'm talking about the other side, the people that acknowledge, even if they don't agree with him politically, that he was a fantastic asset for various communities. And I think a lot of people had high hopes for him coming into Parliament as he was. I saw that TVNZ carried his maiden speech. I would encourage people to go and watch it. Maiden speeches are so important. It's a marker of what it's their mission statement. And Efeso's is excellent, is really, really good. And I hope whoever steps into the massive hole that he leads is someone that is going to carry that flag first and foremost into the job.
A well-functioning democracy needs a strong opposition, right? That's how the best democracies work. So if you are in the opposing political camp, you want quality people like Efeso to be around, to push back, to push you, to find where the thing is, because democracy doesn't work with a strong government and a weak opposition, or the other way around. There needs to be a strong opposition, and he was a first-term MP, but obviously with a wealth of political experience and community service, and so he would have functioned for the next 3 years as an amazing opposition MP, learning the ropes. And then who knows? Could have been involved with also a strong government, depending on what happened at the next election or the one after that. I just want to say again, we are going to open Discord tonight. Okay, this is the plan for the show. We're going to do Efeso Collins stuff for as long as it takes, and that's where we'll take some people on calls if they want to come through and do Discord. And then, depending on how long it takes, if we want to do a couple of little stories at the end of it, which are on other topics, we'll do that. And if we don't, we'll just do this and nothing else, because we can do that. We don't have to do what TVNZ News does and did your Efeso Collins story and then move on to your next story and then the next story. We don't have to do that. We can do whatever we want. So if you're interested in all, and I'm only looking for people who want to, share some thoughts about Efeso. That's the only topic of conversation on Discord. Okay, the only one. There you can come along, and over here, if you're watching us, is the waiting room. Drag yourself into the waiting room. You might be there for 5 minutes, you might be there for 15 minutes, so don't freak out if we don't come straight to you, and wait in the waiting room. And if you do that, at some stage we'll drag you across in the first part of the show, which is going to be just about Efeso. Now, Chewy, in saying that, I did just say we've got somewhere you guys can put your money tonight, and that is to the charity that he was doing some work for. If anyone was going to do a super chat or something tonight, if that's what you were about tonight, like you guys are so generous to do sometimes, don't. But head to Child Fund Water Run. It's childfund.org.nz, and this is what they've put up on their site. Our beautiful friend Efeso. Efeso joined the Child Fund Water Run because he is driven to support the Pacific and because he believed in the cause. Before the race, we spoke about how hard it is to put yourself and your family first when you commit to a life of service. Now he's gone suddenly, and our hearts are breaking for his wife Fia and 2 girls and his family. Aotearoa, New Zealand and the Pacific have lost a leader who found his strength in the community, who would have continued to make our region and the world a better place. In life and in rest, you bring us together, Efeso. Blessed is the moon, for it shall return. So if you were going to be someone who was going to do a super chat tonight, whether it was $2 or $20 or whatever, don't do it tonight. And if you weren't going to do a super chat, maybe you might think about going to Child Fund anyway and making a donation. You can see there's a big button right there that says donate now. And if you're listening to this in an audio podcast not live, or you're watching it not live, childfund.org.nz, you can go there anytime and make a donation to the work they're doing, because the work they're doing was supported by Efeso, and I want us tonight to go to support Efeso and what he was about. And he was about that, so let's be about that at least for tonight. I mean, at least for tonight. So, Chewy, I think we'll just start the show with the TVNZ story. I was going to play the full speech that James made from the Greens, James Shaw made, but there's a little snippet of it in this. I think this is quite a good synopsis of what's happened through the whole day. Now, I don't know if we need to say trigger warnings, but there is footage in this story of Efeso doing the charitable thing. So nothing I'm very impressed that there's been no imagery from anyone in the media that I've seen today about Efeso being tried to be helped by medical staff, right? I'm glad we don't see that anywhere, but there is footage of Efeso in this story, carrying the buckets of water, doing the actual thing at some stage before he collapsed. So if that is upsetting to you, I mean, maybe you'd want to turn off or turn away, or I'm not sure, something, but just letting you know that is actually there. And whilst Chewy gets his camera and stuff going, we shall have a look at the story from One News tonight.
There's been an outpouring of emotion as tributes pour in following the sudden death of Green MP Whaanana Efeso Collins. Parliament's been suspended as colleagues, friends and family grieve. The long-time advocate, community leader, councillor and mayoral candidate collapsed at a charity event in Auckland. Kim Baker-Wilson reports.
His final moments
Here we go!
were of giving back. A charity drive for Child Fund, raising money for clean drinking water in the Pacific. Then, suddenly, the unthinkable. Around 9 o'clock, Efeso Collins collapsed. There was a major and swift response from emergency workers. For almost an hour, they tried and tried hard to save him. He didn't make it. There was shock, stillness, and togetherness, and grief.
And the bro was giving his time and his it's just an incredibly sad day. I believe his impact was only just beginning.
This was in Auckland. At Parliament, his party, his colleagues were only just finding out.
The news has come as a profound shock. And our absolute priority is to Efeso's wife and to his young girls.
Members, it's my sad duty to formally inform the House of the death of our colleague, Whaanana Efeso Collins, who served as a Green MP in this Parliament.
I acknowledge Efeso's wife, Fia, and their 2 young daughters, as James just so said, who sat in this place only just last week to hear the husband and the father that they love so much deliver his maiden speech.
This wasn't the day's first silence. That was back at the charity event he'd been taking part in. And as he was being taken away, tributes for him began arriving.
We were all shocked when we found out. And so for me, I'm just going to wait for Fia and the family to decide how we can support them now.
Support that has been ongoing through the day. Kim Baker-Wilson, One News.
The son of Pacific immigrants, Collins' life was dedicated to serving a community that's now mourning his death. Pacific correspondent Barbara Drever reports.
we'll just pause. We're not going to stop. I'm going to play the whole thing through, but just this is horrific. It's horrific. It's unbelievably sad. I mean, I see people in the chat talking about how James Shaw was in tears. Yeah, same. This is just horrific. This is just all bad. I'm also going to play a friend of the show, Calvin Morgan, sent me the clip that the News Hub Nation, which is TV3, did on him, like a profile they did on him. And we're going to play that as well. We're just going to play it. It's 5 minutes long. It's a bit of a profile on who he is, who he was. So even saying that is horrible. But yeah, is there anything you want to start off with there, Chewy? Or
I did have a thought and it's gone. Yeah, I think it's important to reflect on the fact that this man stood for what he believes all the way through, unshakable. And for a lot of people, like that aren't political tragics like us, may not be aware of how consistently he stood for the things that he believed in. So yeah. I'm glad that there's such a focus on this.
Yeah, and look, I mean, you said earlier, and I wrote it down, and I meant to say it. The show's a bit muddled tonight, guys. You'll forgive us. That he had lots of friends in Labour as well. I mean, Chewy, you and I were, when we heard Jacinda Ardern retiring, we're like, Efeso will be standing in Mount Albert then. So he was intertwined with that community as well. And then, he was obviously saw equal. I remember we asked Chloe Swarbrick why Greens and not Labour. I mean, Efeso was someone who could probably have done either, but he felt more drawn to the Greens. And so, he was known in that community by a lot of people and loved, it would seem, by a lot of people, Chewy.
Yeah. Certainly I saw from Carmel Cipolloni's statement in Parliament today that she was heavily affected by his passing. So, sometimes it's quite easy to write off politicians as not quite being real people capable of real emotions. And it's, especially for people like us, sometimes it's a little bit of a game. They're real people. They've got families, they've got friends, and they work in such a high pressure environment. It's you can't disconnect from them. Yeah.
Like, I mean,
and so to see it hit people that you usually think of like, oh, they must be tough skinned and in this sort of high pressure environment, and it's just obviously something that's hit them like an absolute bus, just really brings it home.
Yeah, I heard in James Shaw's speech at one stage he was saying, Marama and a couple of other people are actually on their way to Auckland because she's known Efeso for decades. So, there's some of these people are their family, their whānau, their best mates, and again, if it was a 77-year-old serving member and who had grown adult children, it would be sad. But 49 with two small kids, it's a tragedy. All right, let's see what, because Barbara Drever's obviously got the story as the Pacific correspondent from the Pacific community. Let's have a listen.
Whaanana Efeso Collins spoke as he lived, a voice for those who had none.
If I was to inspire anyone by getting to this house and my work over the next 3 years, I hope that it's the square pegs, the misfits, the forgotten, the unloved, the invisible. It's the dreamers who want more, expect more.
This was just 6 days ago at his maiden speech in Parliament, where he acknowledged his humble beginnings. Growing up in Otara, his mum worked in a factory, his dad a church pastor.
He was a massive advocate for the Pacific community, a massive advocate for the vulnerable, for the poor, for young people, for South Auckland.
The Pacific MPs of Parliament who knew him so well, today struggling to find the words.
His lived experience would have been huge, and that's just gone in an instant. You can't replace people like that overnight. He was one of our great hopes for our future as Pacific people in Aotearoa.
Efeso Collins first showed his leadership heading the Auckland University Students' Council.
Why? Because you're going along to study, should you have to join a student body?
Because students are paying far too much. Students need someone who's going to go into and bat for them.
Later, he became an Auckland councillor, never forgetting his roots.
This is our chance to show we're talented, we're unique, we're beautiful.
During COVID, he used his voice and position to save lives.
Come here to get vaccinated because that's the only and foremost defence that we have against COVID-19.
He and his family were the brunt of violent, racist and other threats, particularly when he stood for mayor. He called it out and supported others facing the same thing.
He was the one that picked up that my safety was at risk. And then that day, he and Harry turned up to my place just before midnight, just to check on me and to make sure I was safe at home.
As a son of Samoan immigrants who made the mighty Otara 274 Southside Hard their home, I am well aware of the giants whose shoulders I stand on.
But the truth is, we stand on his.
A life of advocacy and service, Barb, and as we've just seen, what's his legacy to the Pacific community?
Simon, when Pacific people immigrate to New Zealand, all they can think about is making sure that their children thrive and have a good life, and they make sure that they sacrifice a lot to make that happen. So Efeso Collins' success not only realised the hopes and dreams of his parents, but of the wider community. Gosh, he was comfortable and courageous at so many levels, including at the national level, and he loved his family very much, beyond belief. They were his rock, they brought him great joy. He leaves behind his wife, Fia, 2 young daughters and a grieving community.
Life-taking part.
So there's the TVNZ. I mean, you know, it's a good synopsis of what's been going on for a very tragic day without going too much into it. I've got a couple of other clips to play as well as that profile from TV3, but Chewy, is there anything in the chat or is there anything we want to put out there now? Is there anything you want to say?
There's been a few comments in the chat about you know, whether Mayor Brown made a comment or all of that sort of stuff. I've found that here on the Auckland mayoral page. Mayor Brown acknowledges the passing of Efeso Collins. It's a sad day for Auckland. He was a good man. My heart goes out to his family. Efeso is someone I had a lot of respect for, and although we competed for the mayoralty, we actually became quite good friends. The former Manukau ward councillor will be greatly missed by the governing body and many people across the wider council group. He was a bold Pacific leader and a champion for South Auckland. And the comment that I mentioned earlier from the unexpected quarter, Leo Malloy, just ignore that, but it just says that he's blocked. Thoughts and prayers to Efeso Collins' family. I happened to attend today to support my dear friend Butterbean. I had a laugh with Efeso about politics and Wayne before they commenced. Efeso was a remarkable man. We didn't agree politically, but as a person and as an orator, he was without peer. A beautiful, kind man gone far too soon.
Wow,
so
I think so that means Leo Malloy was there at the event.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think it's important to acknowledge, you know, some of the people that we dunk on the show and that we don't agree with personally, politically, whatever, when they get it right, when they show that they are actually real people. It's important to see it. I think you know, this is a classic thing with politics, is sometimes it becomes very much us versus them in the politics, and the point of view is everything. But there's more to people than that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like I said, I'm not going to acknowledge this too much because I don't want to. There's some people in the chat talking about what a particular conspiracy theorist commentator put out today. I'll just say this really clearly. If that conversation comes up by anyone in the chat tonight, not people talking about what was talked about, but actually people who are wanting to have that conversation, then we're just banning you immediately. So I've already let Kiwi Skirt through a message no, and me and Chewy agree. If any of that bullshit, nonsense, conspiracy theorist stuff comes out during the show, it'll be an instant ban because I can't be fucked with it tonight.
It's not the place.
It's not the place.
Not
Well, there's no place for that conversation, but tonight particularly, we're not going to do that. So let's just have a look at it's kind of it's not really exactly what we're talking about tonight, but it was one of the last times Efeso was on this show, and I watched it again and I was like, oh, the thing that's nice about this that I like is you get, we're not going to watch the whole 6 minutes, just the first comments that he's got. You get a real sense of who he was and what he thought of the community. So let's have a little look the last time Efeso was on with us here at BHN. How do you think the Mayor and the Council have responded to this? So this is the floods in West Auckland.
Again, I've described it as sluggish, and I think it was sluggish. I understand that there's a whole lot of processes going on in the background where the bureaucrats are giving advice, but there comes a time when you just got to step into a leadership role and say to people, this is what I believe is happening. It's important that we get out and we front foot a lot of this activity. So I'm a bit disappointed that it came so late, and then rather than get out there and try and defend decisions that were made that were erroneous, then what we've got to do is say, look, let's just apologise for them and let's work together to get going. And I still think, there have been people, I'm not joining the chorus of people, especially locals out here, local leaders who've been calling for resignation. So I'm not part of that camp. But I think what that shows us is the level of anger and frustration that people felt like it was too slow. And so, council's got to do better to work with communities. We've often at council had challenges around the way we engage with communities who don't normally participate in our consultation process. Well, this is an example of what happens when we're not tied in or hooked into the communities. We can't access people quickly like the local churches, like local youth organisations, because we haven't got that reach, and we've got to reset the way we think. We can't just do it, the same old consultative way. We've got to look at communities that are pretty diverse, that don't speak English as their first language, and that's got to be the approach that we take, especially for areas like this.
So I just thought that was quite a nice little bit about, everyone saying how he was focused on the community, and it was just a nice little tidbit that in the time that we spoke to him about the floods, it was always we have to make sure the community's safe. We have to make sure the community's involved. We have to talk to that community. We have to get that community involved. We have to bring them into the picture. And I just, I never met Efeso face to face. Never shook his hand. Never was in the same room as him. But I feel like we've lost a showmate, a bit of a mate. I saw him constantly on my Twitter feed. Like he would like half of the things we put out there. He would retweet some of them as well. So I know it sounds a bit silly because, I like that phrase, I don't pay much attention to Twitter because it's not the real world, which is true. But then you also get connected to people through Twitter, and you get connected to people through things like what we're doing here. So I feel connected to Efeso, even though I never shook his hand. And it just makes me sad. I'm sad today.
I remember when we reached out, and obviously we had him coming onto the show at such an amazing moment, talking about his run at the Auckland mayoralty and what was going on in Auckland at that time. Of like, wow, this is a great guest. Right. Yeah. We were stoked to have him there because there was so much that he could talk to. And I remember thinking, this is what I imagine a true community leader to be. He was advocating for his community, 100% for his community, and just really drawing people's attention to the fact that not everyone fits in the same box. You can't treat everybody the same and expect to get great results for everybody. And that's why we need the diversity in our leadership, in our decision-making places, around the tables of mayoral groups and that sort of thing. You need people to stick up and say, that's not going to work for these people, because otherwise they don't have anyone advocating for them and they get left behind.
Yeah.
And I think that's when you see people really hurting, I think with Efeso's passing, is that's just acknowledging how good he was at that. And then selfishly, after that interview, to have him, like we often chat to people either just before the show or after the show and that sort of thing. And he was just truly thankful for coming on our little show, and he had really positive things to say about what we were doing. And when we're plugging away and working so hard to do what we do, even just those sort of comments just put so much wind in our sails.
Yeah.
Of like, oh shit, okay, we are doing something that that people see and people acknowledge and that sort of thing. So, you know, he was there for us at that moment.
That thing that he said about, I mean, it's a well-known phrase, like, I can see further if I've seen further, it's because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. He used a version of that phrase in that TV1 commentary, and you know, the TV1 said, well, we've been standing on his shoulders. And what you're saying, Chewy, is people who there's no rhyme nor reason as to why they should show us any kindness. There's no reason for them to show us any sort of give us any time. I always say to people, we don't deserve anyone's time. If we get them, that's great, but if we don't, and he was one of those people. Like, there's no rhyme nor reason for him to come on. He came on a couple of times, and yeah, sad. But there's a couple of other clips I'm going to play. I'm thinking, I still haven't decided yet about the Newstalk ZB angle, because I experienced something with Newstalk ZB today, which is it's not negative about the Efeso, obviously, but it kind of pissed me off. But I'll keep thinking about whether we're going to do that or not. But before we do, I might play something as well. But you want to say something first?
Oh, I just have one. Sorry, just something popped into my head. Really consistent comment around the Auckland floods, and obviously the mayoral reaction there is people doing, wow, what would have been the reaction to the Auckland floods if Efeso had won that mayoralty race? Yeah. And I remember that being just a real moment of people going, yeah, it wouldn't have been the same. It would have been different. Maybe politics does matter. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, let's show this. And look, you know, this is a different show because everyone's a bit down, rightfully so. But remember, with distance, nothing like what his friends and family are going through right now. And we normally cut in and out of these videos, and we make pithy comments along the side. This is just a profile piece on Efeso Collins on News Hub Nation. And I'll be honest with you, maybe trigger warning again, it's made me cry this afternoon. So if you're that kind of person, just giving you a heads up. But here's a little piece on who Efeso was and what he was all about, thanks to News Hub Nation.
Here in New Zealand at Middlemore Hospital, so just down the road from where we live in Otahuhu. So I'm the youngest of 6, which means in a good Samoan family, it means you have very little voice, if any voice at all. My mum, for many years, worked at Middlemore Hospital. She was the cleaner there. My dad was a Pentecostal church minister for a while, worked long hours. Dad was a taxi driver as well as being a church minister. His diction was beautiful as well. And so that was something we picked up because Dad was role modelling, speaking good English. He didn't like it when our words weren't crisp. My sister who's just older than me, her and I wanted to be newsreaders because Dad wanted us to be crisp. You know, there was like the home world and the church world, and it was very ordered. A lot of things we were doing at school kind of contradicted what we were doing at home. And I think for all of us, we were challenged by the New Zealand world and the Samoan world, trying to get the best of both and understand that we were navigating 2 very different cultural worlds. Yeah. So, a bit embarrassed by this photo, but this is our whole family, and it looks like it's after White Sunday. So we have a thing called Lotu Tamaiti, which means children's church, and everyone wears white. But that's me in the middle with the tie on and in shorts, I'm not sure why, and the rest of my family, my brothers who are both taller than me. I played softball and rugby, but I was, in comparison to my brothers, I was useless. And so I needed to find something for me that I could be known for, and so I did debating. And I remember one day someone banging their hand on the desk, and it shocked me. Oh, wow, they've really got my attention. And I thought, oh, so that's all you have to do in a debate, you just bang your hand on your desk. But I met so many different people at university. I realised that there were lots of people that didn't go to church. I remember my first metaphysics lecture and her opening...
Sorry, I just noticed for the first... Did you see what was in the background there? Nando Tanchos, right there.
Oh, true.
Yeah, I just noticed that in the background. Sorry, I guess I did cut into the storyline. We'll keep going.
Metaphysics lecture, and her opening line was, God is a woman. And I thought, oh my gosh, wait till I tell Dad that God's a woman. So we went home and we talked to Dad, and he said, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? So we were confounded by all of this, but faith's been a core for me. And as I've evolved as a person, I've realized that there are some things that I held like really strongly, and now those are things that I'm flexible with. But about 10 years ago, I came out and I was against marriage equality. As my thinking has evolved, I accept that people love
in different ways, that people are allowed to love the way they choose. And that's why my views on that have shifted. You know, I've apologised to the Pasifika Rainbow community in particular, because I know people were hurt by those comments. So this is my beautiful wife, Fia, and we have been married now for about 11 years. We celebrated our anniversary on Sunday, a couple of days ago. And so, yeah, it's been a great marriage, hasn't it, dear?
I was really drawn to his passion for people, but he was really down to earth as well, as somebody that you could share with, talk to, and that he was honest. Efeso being in the public eye, whilst we're really proud of him and we're cheering him on and we're encouraging him to be in that space, it can be quite challenging for our family, and I'm quite vocal, and sometimes being in the public eye is feeling like that voice is silenced in certain situations, that you have to be, you have to look and sound a particular way. Aww. And so I think that's what's hard, and you can't talk about it in the public. You just silently try to protect your family.
Our family's been through so much. I remember the challenge around the death threats. I think the challenge has been that they have to put up with it. And I think we choose to be advocates, but it's come at quite a personal cost. And I often think of our eldest daughter, Gabrielle, and we sat down and she said, "Dad, why would people want to kill us? Because they named my family." And for me, I feel this huge sense of responsibility for my family. And it breaks me that they have to go through this. And that's an experience that we've managed and navigated, and I'm grateful to Fia and my girls. There's a letter here that Gabriela wrote to us on behalf of her and Asalemo, our daughters. And she said, "Dad, I'm proud of you." I never heard those words from my own father, because it's probably not a Samoan dad thing to do. Knowing that my baby is proud of me is enough to keep going. Yeah. I want people to know, there's no Pacific Island person who might be in the next government, so people are relying on us to speak on their behalf. So that's what we're going to do. This is time to hit the hand on the desk, to throw the papers in the air and say we're going to do everything we can for this community. I think I bring the hood, and when I say the hood, I mean I bring attitude, I bring strong voice, but I bring a cultural relevance and respect that we might not have seen before. I want to bring that hood mentality and that hood heart into the place, because I'm not sure that people quite know what the real South Auckland is like. And I think we're pretty hip, pretty cool, we're relaxed, but we are strong and we're bold, and that's what I'm going to bring to Parliament.
Some people used to say...
So, would you like to talk now, Chewy? Yeah, I know, look... It's just
old tin hat here doesn't feel anything ever. Just that acknowledgement of his family.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, sometimes you see almost lip service paid to this when it comes to politicians and public figures, is obviously their families pay a price.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's almost just blasé, like flipped out there. But to see him reacting to his partner speaking her mind about how it directly affects her, and then speaking on the absolute disgusting death threats that he had to deal with and that sort of thing, that saddens me. But at the same time, they didn't stop. And if you are on the receiving end of something like that and are paying such a personal cost and you keep going, what does that say about A, the strength of your character, and B, the cause that you're standing up for?
Yeah.
It's bigger than you.
Yeah.
It's bigger than the personal cost to you. And I quite often talk about, what a leader is and what true leadership is. And obviously he's had some amazing people to follow in his life that he's modeled his leadership on. But the core thing I want to focus on here is that acknowledgement, unprompted, that he got it wrong, and he thought about it, and he reviewed, and he changed his mind.
Yeah.
And we see from leaders of any cloth that they'll make a decision and they'll dig in the face of all questions, all evidence, and they won't change their mind, or they won't do it publicly. They won't draw attention to the fact that once they were wrong. But he did. And that shows, I think, one of the rarest qualities in any sort of leader. The ability to review and change based on new information.
Yeah.
And that would have meant so much to people, specifically in the Pacifica community as well, that someone could do that. Yeah.
It's that, I don't think I'm giving it the due amount of respect, because I think it's much bigger and more important than this, but it's the idea of not being an ideologue, not just always landing on the same side of things all the time for the reason that I believe that, just because I believe that, because that's what my side believes. And obviously he's had a church upbringing. I don't know if he got anything to do with church now, but his dad was a pastor and stuff. So in the Pacific Island community, that could be an easy reason why someone would be more restrictive on LGBT rights. But like you're saying, he learnt and he changed and he evolved and he grew.
That puts you up as an example to others.
100%.
So he made that path easier for others to go, well, maybe I can shift my position.
Yeah.
He moved the needle.
Interesting comment from Mike here. I pretty much only got to know Efeso in this past half hour, seeing sides that really see in the public. It's a shame he was cut down before he showed his full potential. Yeah, it's an interesting cut down before he showed his full potential, because the flip side to that conversation is he seems, working through, I guess, what he did as a student, what he did in local boroughs, what he did for Auckland City Council, and then started to do with the Greens. He's probably done more and lived more of a life than most 80-year-olds will. He's probably had more impact in his life than 10 average lives would give for other people. So I agree about there was still so much more to come, but I think it's also important to acknowledge that so much was done as well. So much more was done than maybe many other people did. So,
yeah, and I think there we see, and we've seen from a couple of people there, sometimes there can be some quite dismissive comments of people that have come into politics through student politics.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much leadership potential that comes through the university political scene. Like all sides have people that have become interested in politics or active in politics through university. And I just find it interesting that in Efeso's case, again, it was advocating for people. It was advocating for that community. And in the case of, when he was there, they were talking about compulsory student fees and student union membership and that sort of thing. And I think in the fullness of time, those people that were against it and the reasons that they were against it, they have been shown to be that they were right. They didn't win that battle, but they were. I think they're shown to be right in the fullness of time.
The whole, this is a bit of a tangent, the whole idea about, people who are involved in student politics who are now politicians, yada yada. Like, just to be fair, I want someone to be involved with student medicine who's my doctor. I want someone to be involved in student engineering who's my engineer. Why would it be a bad thing to have someone involved in student politics who's now a politician? It's actually just it's like the word woke or peace. It's just it's a saying people say that means nothing, because if you've been training to be a politician since you were 18, that probably makes you more qualified than someone who's a so-called business person, board member, who's never done it before and doesn't know really how to run a political party or a political scene. Just another way to look at it. I am going to talk about News Talk ZB tonight because there was one thing that I thought was really poor, and I actually think it's worth calling it out. I saw someone in the chat say we should talk about that tomorrow night. Of course, tomorrow night we're talking about, we're going to have a light and jovial show about the Atlas Network, Chewy, which has already been recorded because, as you guys know, if you don't know, I'll tell you, I've got a family member, someone from my household is going in for a small procedure tomorrow morning at hospital, and I just want to be available all day. So tomorrow's night show is already ready to go. It's uploaded. It's on the Atlas Network. We had to talk about it last night, and I'll probably even release some 2 or 3 minute clips. In fact, you know what I'll do? I'll put the whole thing on Discord tonight, so you can get it anytime you want. I should have done that today actually, but it's been a heck of a busy day.
It's a must. It's a must see. It's a really good one.
I'll do that. I'll endeavour to put it up on Discord tonight. If I don't do it tonight, I will do it tonight because I'm at the hospital at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. I'll put it on Discord tonight so anyone can get it from Discord. I'm saying Discord. I keep saying Discord. Sorry. I meant to be saying Patreon. I don't want to say Discord. I'll put it up on Patreon tonight, not Discord. Sorry. I got that completely wrong. So I do want to talk about this because whilst this is sort of, I don't want to use that phrase, celebration of life, you know, I was pretty shocked today. I actually jumped on and did a live stream at 10:10. So he collapsed at 9 o'clock and they worked on him for an hour and then they announced it. So this is probably 10 minutes after he had announced it. Now, you have to remember my perspective on News Talk ZB is probably one that's slightly different to yours because I have sat in that studio. I was on air when the earthquake happened, the first earthquake in Christchurch. I was on air, not at News Talk ZB, but somewhere else when the planes flew into the Twin Towers. You know, so I've experienced and done huge breaking news stories. This, although people are going to go, well, he's a Green MP, he's a list. This is a huge New Zealand story. So what I did in the live stream, and it's actually up on our YouTube page if you want to go have a look at it, you can see this is about halfway through the live stream. It was only 20 minutes. Was I was jumping around the news sites and having a look, and I jumped over to News Talk ZB, and I saw their front page was Green MP Efeso Collins dies after collapsing it. And I thought, okay, what are they saying? Because the thing to do now is you listen to Talkback. That's where people go and they hear what the community is talking about. And this is what happened. Green MP. Actually, why don't we listen live as well? See, because that'll be Talkback going on right now. Let's just see what they're saying, what people are saying on News Talk ZB as well.
Well, thank you. Yes, on Nature Boy. Haha, Nature Boy didn't hear the call but heard the sting played repeatedly yesterday. Good on him, says Matt.
What?
It's fantastic to see there are young people seeing right through the corrupt system most of us are slaves to.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Thrive in your freedom and know your value is in getting the slaves to question their servitude and serfdom within a system that increasingly serves the interests of...
This can't be live.
You didn't really forward his details to authorities, did you? That would be a big disappointment to me and a betrayal of confidence. Matt, I'd never send anybody's personal details. No. I was saying I might send the call, him and Barbecue Man, but I'd never send...
Surely this can't be live on ZB. I must have clicked on the wrong thing.
Even if we had their addresses. No, I would not. No.
News,
I haven't done it yet, and I'm so slack I probably won't. Caleb says, Kerry, I was on the dole for a few months in 21.
Okay.
Nobody can ever complain.
I'm stopping that. News Talk ZB is so. I'll leave it. I've got another little clip to play. So I thought I was being quite generous. I thought, and I'm like, I must have made a mistake. I must have got the wrong. Or maybe I clicked back the hour before or something. No, it was the correct hour. And they weren't talking about it at all. Now, some people have, I put this out on a tweet today, some people have criticised me and go, well, there's other things to talk about. I'm like, no, that's not how news works. This is why this story was the lead story all day. It was the lead story on 3 News and 1 News. It was the biggest story in New Zealand. And look, not to sound like too much of a commercial radio guy, but a big news story drives the telephone lines. And you go, oh my gosh, this is incredibly sad news. If you were in his ward, if you knew him from university, if you voted for him, if you know Efeso, give us a call. We want to hear your thoughts. And that fills up the rest of the show. That's how Talkback works. So I thought, well, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was wrong. And it sounds a little bit sort of calculating, but it's how Talkback works. You want to get the phones going, but it's also how you provide the narrative to the audience, to society. It's the marketplace, right? So I went back in, so I listened to it for a bit longer and I listened through the ad break, and then I heard this after the ad break. And Kerry Woodham started talking about Efeso Collins, and I went, oh, finally, they are actually talking about it. Oh, that's good. I'm just like, so this is how it went after the ad break. Time check, 10:26.
Very, very sad for Efeso Collins' family. It looks like a gorgeous family too. Wife and 2 little girls. He's worked a lot for his own people in South Auckland.
Oh, good Lord.
Students at university. Was in the mayoral race for Auckland, and now, of course, a list Green MP.
And now you're going to go into a conversation about
And
this?
then helping out a charity, and that's the way it ends.
Wow.
Or are you going to go back to benefit bashing?
49, I think. Which seems absurdly young. So very sad for, well, the Greens and for, more specifically, his large extended family.
Sounds
Nate,
like someone
hi.
reading bullet points.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Lovely chat as always. Yeah, very sad to hear for Efeso Collins
So this
and
is
the
the
Green
next call.
team. Hey, just wanted to make a few quick points on both yesterday's chat around Nature Boy and I guess today's chat around obesity.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And I guess
So, so the conversation then went on about benefit bashing, fat people, and whatever the conversation yesterday with Nature Boy was out. And I was furious. I was furious because, and this might sound a bit weird, but I love the medium of talkback. It can do. I've seen it bring a country together when the earthquakes happen. I've seen it, and it's just like thrown away. You know, we won't talk about this. Let's talk about why should you be on the dole. Sorry, Cherry, you go.
This is my hand up. What the fuck is Nature Boy?
No, I don't know. The topic they talked about yesterday. But it was more important. It was more important to talk about the thing they talked about yesterday than to talk about. I mean, I'm trying to be careful. I want to make it sound like I happily use bad news to get the phone lines going. But that's what talkback is. It's the biggest news story, and it's like this is the water cooler moment. I've seen people in the comments say, "I heard about this at morning tea." You hear about it at morning tea, then everyone's talking about it around the water cooler. That's what talkback's supposed to be.
I had customers mentioning it to me in the shop.
Yeah.
Just being, wow, you know, like, and just sounded a lot more genuine than Kerry Woodham did there. Like, I mentioned it while you were playing the clip. It sounds like she's reading bullet points off a piece of paper her producer put in front of her.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like someone actually putting effort in. Like, oh, he was an advocate for his people.
Yeah.
He was. And university students, and obviously Green MP, and and a charity. I won't name the charity. Like you couldn't even get that minimum level. Do some good out of this comment by mentioning the charity.
Yeah,
that's news. That's like you're on a news, nominally a news station. That's information that you can find to mention in your piece, but it wasn't there. And without hearing the rest of what that caller was going to talk about, I'm gonna use my powers of deduction here, and we're going to go into a trope that I absolutely love, because whenever there's a story about beneficiaries, and whenever there's imagery attached to it, they're always fat. Do you know that, Pat? So they're poor and fat. They're not starving, are they? The big poor fatties. And these guys don't draw the direct line between the fact that the most affordable food is the cheapest, shittest, sawdust, empty calorie filled bullshit out there. How much is a 2-litre bottle of milk? Like $4?
$4.50, yeah.
Yeah. How much is a bottle of Coke?
Oh, 2?
Half that.
Yeah.
Half that. You know, bag of chips might make you feel full. It's all empty calories.
Yeah. Get them on special for $1.
But that's what you've got. Hey, I've just noticed a couple of super chats coming in. We mentioned at the start of the show. Thank you so much for the super chats. If you've got money to spare, please push it towards child fund that Efeso was drawing attention to today.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you flicking us money, but that's today's mission.
You can start bribing us again on Monday. to play your things. Go. I mean, like, thank you. I mean, like, totally thanks. We can put. I'm still happy to put them up because people are doing it. Junk says, when I found out, I clicked on ZB at work around 1 p.m. Two hosts were talking only about Ginny Anderson's comments on Mitchell. Unbelievable. That's interesting. So I didn't listen anymore after that. And Alex wants to know if there's a GoFundMe for their family. I don't know, but I don't know. I haven't heard anything yet. And then, is it Maori Ora? Maori Ora is $10. And I can see the word rangatira, chiefly title. I'm not even going to try and butcher what Maori Ora is saying, but there you go. Thank you for your super chat. But yeah, look, if anyone else is thinking about it tonight, just flick it to these guys who are on the screen right now. If you're listening to this in post, childfund.org.nz, the charity that Efeso was supporting today could do with some support tonight or tomorrow if you're listening to this on audio. Yeah, the other thing about Newstalk ZB that frustrates the shit out of me is there's no competition for them now. I got messages when I tweeted about it that was wall-to-wall coverage on RNZ, but RNZ is not the same thing. RNZ sort of feeds the marketplace, but isn't the marketplace because they don't get the people coming in on the phones. And, Today FM was a competition and they're gone. So actually, wait for the conversation tomorrow night, but this neoliberal radio station full of right-wing commentators, who are also the biggest radio station because MediaWorks, can I say this, fucked it up when there was some very easy low-hanging fruit they could have gone to grow their audience and chose to try and compete against Newstalk ZB. I'm going to get in my soapbox now. Fucking Today FM had someone from 9 till midday who said they'd vote for Trump. From midday till 3 p.m. they had an ACT party member and someone who wanted to be a National Party MP. That was their competition to Newstalk ZB. So they absolutely fucked it up. And that leaves the country, not just me and you, because it's so funny. I was talking to a mate today who's in the podcasting world, and he goes, what we forget, Pat, I haven't said this to you, True, but think about this. What we get is we get to actually use this like counseling. We get to talk all this stuff out. We get to go and have a little cry while we're watching a video and share our heart and feelings with you guys. You guys get to do it in the chat through to us. But that used to kind of be one of the roles of talkback as well. You get into the community, you hear the views, you share your own, you this, that. But if you've just got a neoliberal right-wing perspective and narrative coming through, who's going to enjoy that? Who's going to be fed by that? It's horrible. It's horrible. Anyway, sorry, I'm not going to go on a rant about talkback. So
I think Kerry Woodham just failed a very basic test almost of being able to show very basic empathy of like people are sad that someone has gone. I don't understand why, but and it's just like it's a news station. This is news, and you're exactly right. Like it would have driven discussion, and it would have been a lot healthier for people, I would hope. But yeah, if you're like, I mean, I think we're a good example of this, right? If you're on the left and politically focused and have thoughts and feelings and opinions and that sort of thing, would you go to Newstalk ZB? Do you think you get a fair hearing by literally anyone on their roster?
No.
So where do you put your thoughts? So then the zone gets flooded with just the most terrible, hateful nonsense. And then here we are, our chat has been overwhelmingly reflective and positive and just acknowledging what's being lost. And isn't that a better place? But apparently not what the advertisers are after.
Listen, I'm going to share another super chat. I thank you for it, but look, we've said again, send it off to these other guys. But this is a very interesting comment, and I am going to look this up. At 4:45 p.m. on ZB, Barry Soper said he was surprised that Parliament was lifting for a week due to Collins' death. Anything for a holiday, I guess. Those were his actual words. Go back and listen on demand. I will be, and if he has said that, that will be a feature piece coming out on Twitter.
Absolute dog shit person. So yeah, I mean, what happens if someone in his sphere at work dies, I guess you just step over the corpse and carry on, right?
Well, let's go back to when Holmesy passed. I was there.
Yeah.
You know, we were working there.
Like think about your own workplace. If someone that you work with in your business, organization, department, whatever, suddenly dropped dead, what would your workplace do? I can quite confidently say that my shop would be shut. You know, and I think of other places that I work at too, the expectation is that you don't make people work through that.
Yeah.
It's just nonsense. It's just like, why do we expect our politicians to be absolute ghouls with no heart? Like, I think that's what's missing, as we often comment on the lack of humanity in some political figures. And I've gone to a point of pointing out that some of the main offenders have said genuine human comments, reflecting on a colleague, an opposition colleague, suddenly passing. And you get someone like Barry Soper come in with just like step over the corpse and carry on. I don't get it. Don't get it. Can't even have that mindset.
I don't know how quite to finish this part of the conversation other than saying we wish those who knew and loved Efeso all the heart, the love, care in the world. And I hope that you guys can find something in this that brings you closer to him, that moves you past this. And it's okay. Those of us who have had loss, you can do that. It's okay to sit in it. I remember being told a story by a mother who'd lost a child, like lost a 16-year-old son. And the piece of advice she had for other people who have lost someone is don't get in and try and help them clean up too quickly. Just sit in it. You know, the example she gave was this lovely caring group came in and they cleaned up her son's room. And they were like, all she wanted to do was go and sit in her son's room in the mess and smell. That's all that she wanted to do, but this caring group had come along and tidied up the house for including the son's room. So just let them sit. And I guess people who know them be there when they need them. And for the rest of us, go hug a family member tonight. Because, you know, just think about the Collins family this morning at breakfast. It's very different from the Collins family tonight at dinner. And that's just how fragile life can be. As many bumps and bruises and car crashes and hits in the head when we're kids and broken bones we can go through, it can also all end like that as well. That's the flip side of it. So, I'm going to move in to another couple of quick stories, Drew, because they are quick. And look, let's finish off the show. I mean, we could just go, that's it for tonight. And if that's all enough for you, if that's too much for you, if you had too much so far, then, you know, see you Monday night live. See you tomorrow night for the conversation about the Atlas Network, but see you Monday night again live. Because I just wanted to follow up on a story from last night, and that was the story about the big boss man at Woolworths, yeah? Because this story was released on Monday. TVNZ just showed a very short clip, but I wanted to play a bit of a longer clip for you and then show you what the fallout from this has been. So we all saw him storming off, but we didn't see yesterday as why he stormed off. Let's have a bit of a look.
Rod Sims, the former head of the ACCC, says that we have one of the most concentrated supermarkets in the world. Is he lying?
It's not true, and it is not true. This community over here, there will be 3 Coles stores within 2 kilometres of it, at least 1 Aldi store, a series of independents, ability to within 24 hours have a quarter of our store delivered to you by Amazon. It is an incredibly competitive market. The risk people have is
the former head of the Competition Commission says his words are that
retired, by the way.
I don't think you would impugn his integrity and his understanding of competition law.
I'm just saying the world has got much more competitive.
He retired 18 months ago. He's not...
Okay, can we take that out? Is that okay? He is retired, but I shouldn't have said that, Angus. Are we going to leave it in there if we are?
Well, I mean, we're on the record. You said it. I mean, you know, let's move on, but...
Yeah, no, I think I'm done, guys. I do this with good intent. You know, I don't do this with bad intent.
You're walking out, really?
No. Can we just talk through Brad for a second?
Let me just.
Can we just have a minute?
Let's keep going.
So that was the full story, Chewy. He made a big balls up.
Jesus, it's not any better, is it?
It's actually a lot worse. He wanted to take it out, and then this is the flow on from it. Woolworths CEO Branducci resigns day after interview debacle. The boss of one of the Woolworths supermarket group, CEO Brad Branducci, is quitting the highly paid role. The exit follows his bombshell walkout from an ABC interview this week after being questioned on price gouging. Woolworths Group made the announcement on Wednesday morning saying Branducci, who has faced growing criticism in his role recently, would retire after 13 years with the company. He has been in the top job for more than 5 years. The reason he kind of either walked or was pushed, Chewy, this was the stock price today. Going from up towards 36 down towards 33. So that's a 10% drop off because of that interview. So now we have the full picture of the story, and I just saw someone in chat say it is a very sad day, but maybe we can end on a laugh because this is a hilarious walkout. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, the importance of media training.
It's very, very true. It's very, very true.
And the importance of, I don't know, they can stay ahead of this by not having such monstrous business practices. But you can't deliver nice big fat dividends for the shareholders that way.
Yeah, stop gouging. Stop gouging. And there's one other thing I want to play for us tonight. It's quite a quick one. I did have a couple of quickies set up because we've been talking about the plan by National to kick more people off benefits. This morning on, I think it's breakfast. Yep, on breakfast, Christopher Hipkins was asked about benefit sanctions, and he had some quite interesting things to say about said benefit sanctions that National wants to bring in.
And the economy then, can we talk about benefit sanctions? National's accusing your previous government of, quote unquote, lax application of sanctions. What's your response to that?
Well, we know that sanctions don't work. So, yes, we had fewer sanctions than the previous National government, because actually when the previous National government were applying sanctions willy-nilly as they didn't actually work in reducing welfare dependence. The vast majority of people who go onto the Jobseeker benefit are on the Jobseeker benefit for less than 6 months. If we're talking about people who are on there for longer, simply beating them with a stick until they go into what is typically low-paid and unstable employment, and then they'll typically be back on a benefit within a short space of time, that's not the outcome we should be looking for. What we should be looking at is saying, okay, what do these people need to be able to get a good, well-paid, sustainable job? And does that mean that they need some more training and so on? When Nicola Willis and others talked about taking a social investment approach to welfare, I was actually quite receptive to that idea. If we talk about the cost that it is to have people on welfare for a long period of time, and we say, let's actually invest some of that up front in giving them better skills and making sure that when we get them into employment, they can make it stick, I think that would be a good thing. That is not what this government are doing.
Okay, but the sanctions that they are...
Yeah, and then basically gets asked the same question twice and gives exactly the same answer. And you know what I was just thinking when I was playing that? I was thinking, are we taking away a bit of the show from a focus on Efeso? If Efeso was on the phone right now, he'd go, you guys got to do those two stories. You got to do those two stories. You got to show what's going on. We got to keep informing the community. So there you go. So, and look, what I see in Chippy in that conversation, Chewy, is a bit of that kind of spark that we needed 3 months out from the election. Fact, research, not going to work. But there you go. Beautiful.
Yep. I'm proud of the show, Pat.
Oh, yeah? You mean this particular episode or like the whole 1,500?
Well, as a whole, I've always been genuinely proud of the show, but specifically tonight's episode,
oh, good.
I'm very proud of what we're able to do and what we had the privilege to be able to do in comparison to a lot of other commentators, traditional legacy media outlets. And I'm glad that our chat welcomes it, obviously.
Yeah.
You guys are great.
Yep. And this is what community is. Now, tomorrow night, community will be together, but we'll be in pre-recorded mode. If you're a patron, you'll be able to get that interview as soon as I'm finished here. I'm going to put it up on Patreon, and it'll be there for as long as it takes to upload. Then it will be there. So you can watch it tomorrow during the day and it'll be there, kept there. It's a really interesting conversation. Now, let me just tell you something. I used the word in the introduction for it, dense. And the show tomorrow is dense with information. I get the sense, because I watched it back again while I was editing some clips out, meaning taking some things out to be shorter clips. I didn't take any of the information out. I got the sense that maybe for some people there is a lot of information coming from Jeremy Walker. And it might be the kind of thing that you watch twice. Like, in all seriousness, it's dense, full of information. And it might be worth a second watch, and you might pick other things out, because Jeremy just starts talking about things, and then he goes to the next step naturally, and then to another step naturally, and then we have to come back to the original place we started from. So it is full of information, but it's I watched it again today, and it's a great watch. So I hope you enjoy it. And it's about the Atlas Network, and I'm in communication with Jeremy now. Actually, he sent me a couple of messages today, and here's one. I'll just read it out to you that he sent. Interesting, 2 days ago, Frontier published something on them, Seymour, Atlas linked to them. So Atlas is linked to things involving Seymour. So the other thing that seems to be happening is somebody out there is trying to wipe the internet of a whole bunch of this information. You know, we had that conversation with Joe Trinder last week. One of the things that comes up from Jeremy tomorrow is how Atlas gets people to infiltrate groups. And I'm just wondering if we've put the connection yet together about Joe's situation where someone tried to sell his t-shirts and then get involved with them and kind of infiltrate. Where does that come from? I mean, I can't say that it's exactly there, but the things that Jeremy talks about in this conversation, I see happening. Whether it's having several groups using exactly the same language, whether it's identifying nefarious actions trying to infiltrate groups, particularly on the left. And yeah, it's well worth a watch. And it seems that there's some excitement about this conversation on the internet, because no one else is talking about Atlas like New Zealand is at the moment. So if you've been talking about it with friends, let them know it's on. Of course, there'll be clips out. It'll stay up online as well, so you can watch it anytime and share it around. So that's about it. I'm about done for tonight, Joey. What about you, sir?
I think we'll just leave on what we have been talking about all the way through the show. If you are able to donate, Child Fund, do it in Efeso's name, or your own, but it's childfund.org.nz. They do good work around the world. The focus of the event that Efeso was improving water security in the Pacific Islands, but they also do emergency humanitarian work and have helped out with the Ukrainian refugee response as well. Obviously a very worthy organisation.
It's just childfund.org.nz, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Perla. All right, guys, you're all beautiful. And we'll catch you again tomorrow night from 9 p.m. for a special long-form conversation here on Big Hairy News. And we'll catch you again live and in person Monday. Actually, before we go, people who aren't subscribed to the channel yet, who are just watching, we have a really good uptake of subscriptions compared to some. Some channels get 2% of their views from subscribed people. We get about 60. So we have a good uptake of subscriptions who are watching us. But that means, say, 40% of people who are watching or who watch this content aren't subscribed. You guys need to subscribe, because, like, for example, today I did a live stream and only the people subscribed to us and who have rung that notification bell would have been notified that I was going live for Efeso. And we'll keep doing these sorts of things. If there's breaking news, we can just get in there and do it. So if you haven't done it yet, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you are subscribed and you haven't hit that notification bell yet to let you know when things are happening, then do that as well. And then we are the only group doing this in New Zealand in this part of the political world. And we're building a community. You're a part of it. We can continue to build this community with your support just by subscribing and hitting that bell notification. That will be huge for us, and that will help get all these, and forget about me and Chewy, that'll help get the words out when we get guests and stuff on, the professionals on. That'll help get Jeremy Walker's words out when it comes to the Atlas Network, and go on and on and on. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and we'll see you tomorrow night in the pre-record, and we'll see you Monday night live from 9 p.m. for another edition of Big Hairy News. Stay safe through the weekend, teams. Hooroo.
Cheers, fam.